Patti LaBelle never needed drama to be legendary. She did not go on rants. She did not write exposés. She never needed the world to know who disappointed her. But if you paid attention, you would notice the silence. The unspoken exits. The songs that never happened. The stages never shared again. These moments tell a louder story than any headline ever could. Today we are breaking that silence and revealing the list of icons Patti LaBelle quietly walked away from. Quincy Jones was the man she believed would elevate her sound to a whole new dimension. After Lady Marmalade, Patti was searching for something deeper. Something raw and unapologetic. She did not want pop gloss. She wanted truth. And Quincy said the words she longed to hear. We should do something real. She trusted him. She waited. She imagined studio sessions where her voice would soar over Quincy's legendary production. But the call never came. Michael Jackson had arrived. Off the Wall took center stage, and Quincy Jones never looked back. There were no arguments, no shade, just a silence that lasted decades. Patti once said, "I waited so long for that phone call I had to make my own album." She meant it. And when someone asked who disappointed her most, she replied, "Some people are too grand to hear my small call." That call from Quincy Jones never came. And the warmth in her voice when mentioning him vanished for good. Kenny Gamble was Philadelphia royalty just like Patti. They grew up breathing the same city air. They were the architects of Philly soul. And for a time, it seemed inevitable that they would unite. But Patti did something most artists feared. She said no. She refused to sign with Philadelphia International Records, not because she lacked respect, but because she did not want to be molded. She once said backstage, "I don't need a manager telling me what color dress to wear." Kenny Gamble took it personally. To him, it was more than business. It was pride. From that moment, their relationship froze. No more greetings backstage, no nods of respect, just cold silence. Insiders whispered that he removed her name from a tribute album. No confirmation, no denial. But everyone knew what it meant. Patti never said his name with bitterness, but when asked why she never sang his songs, she said, "Not every song from Philadelphia is his." And that was the end of it. Prince was a musical god to many, but to Patti LaBelle, he was something else entirely. He invited her to Paisley Park in the late 80s. No one knew why. No one knew what was expected. Patti entered the room, and what she experienced was not collaboration. It was distance. Prince barely spoke, he nodded. Sometimes disappeared randomly, offered no praise, no warmth, no recognition. When she left, she told someone, "I don't know if I met a genius or a ghost." That moment stuck with her. She never chased a duet with him again. He wrote for everyone, Chaka Khan, Sheila, Madonna, but not Patti. She never expressed anger, but once whispered, "He does not hate me, but he does not need me to exist." And that hurt more than rejection ever could. Rick James was the opposite of silence. He was loud, wild, unpredictable. When he invited Patti to the studio in 1983, she thought they could create something electric. What she walked into was chaos. Friends crowding the room, flashing lights, beats pounding so loud the engineers had to shout. She tried one take, watched Rick fiddle with the track, then she pulled out her earphones, removed her heels, and walked out. No goodbye, no need. Later, Rick joked, "She is too clean to play dirty funk with me." But to Patti, it felt like a label, and she had never accepted labels. They never worked again. No shade, no interviews, just a closed door. She said once, "Funk is not to blame." But people use funk to hide their own disarray. They were never on the same rhythm, and Patti was fine with that. James Brown was the godfather of soul, a titan, but even titans cast shadows. In 1974, Patti shared a stage with him. As she sang, her spotlight faded. No one said why, but everyone backstage knew. That light did not dim itself. James Brown's team understood the message. Patti was outshining him, and that was unacceptable. Patti did not yell, did not demand. She just kept singing in the dark. Later she said, "He was great." But greatness does not mean stepping on someone else's light. She never performed with him again. Not because of hate, but because she knew her light was not welcome on his stage. Wyclef Jean was riding high in 2001. Genre-bending, creative, powerful. He invited Patti LaBelle to the studio, wanted her voice on a track, a fusion of hip-hop, reggae and soul. She walked in on time. No entourage, no flair. Wyclef's studio was buzzing. Loud beats, fast food rappers, a crowd of guests. She entered the booth, tried a few takes, then he said it. Try a little rap. Something like missy one word left her lips. No tension, no yelling, just clarity. She stepped out. The session ended as if it had never begun. They never worked together again. Patti later said, "If someone does not listen to you, singing for them loses its meaning." She had nothing against Wyclef. She had worked with younger artists before, Mariah, Alicia, Mary J. But she would not contort herself to match someone else's vision, especially when that vision did not honor her voice. Sometimes, one word is enough to close a chapter forever. Babyface was supposed to be the one, the producer who understood emotion, who sculpted heartbreak into harmony. Patti said publicly that she wanted to work with him more than once. She had intermediaries reach out. He said he was open, that he liked the idea, and then nothing. No message, no response, no plan, just silence. It was not a rejection, it was erasure. And that, Patti said, hurts more than a no, because it makes you feel invisible, like your voice never mattered in the first place. No statement was made, no issue raised, he simply never called, and that told her everything she needed to know. Patti LaBelle is not bitter. She never went on talk shows to expose, she never wrote a tell-all. She just moved on, quietly, firmly, powerfully. Each silence, each unfinished song, each cold shoulder was met with grace, but never with surrender. She did not shrink for anyone, not for Quincy, not for Prince, not for James Brown. She kept her voice and let it echo without compromise in an industry where alliances shift like shadows, where fame can turn to friction in seconds. Patti LaBelle stayed true to herself. She could have begged for features, chased trends, tried to bend her sound to match the moment, but she never did, because she knew what she carried, a voice that was more than sound. It was soul, it was history, it was resistance wrapped in melody, and it deserved more than empty promises and chaotic studios. People still talk about the songs that never happened, the collaborations that never came. But maybe those absences tell a story of their own. A story of a woman who chose self-respect over opportunity, who chose dignity over visibility, and who left behind a legacy that needs no footnotes or features to shine. And so Patti kept singing in dark rooms, in bright lights alone, or with those who saw her fully. She once said, "I never chased, I never begged, I just walked where my voice was welcome," and that more than anything is why her name still echoes through generations, not because she sang with everyone, but because she knew when not to sing at all. The music industry remembers the hits, but legends are often built on what you never see. The silent refusals, the exits without applause, the moments that never made it to radio. Patti LaBelle had many of those, but she never let them define her. Instead, she used them. Every rejection became fuel, every dismissal became a beat. Her voice rose above. She never went public with her pain. She just kept creating, with or without the producers who ghosted her. Moments that never made it to radio define her. Rejection, fuel, dismissal, voice rose above. Public with her pain, creating, producers who ghosted her. With or without the stars who made her feel invisible. There was a reason Patti was still standing. Long after those egos dimmed, her career was not built on trends or favors, it was built on backbone when she refused to rap for Wyclef. That was not arrogance. It was a declaration, "This is who I am, and I will not change to fit your idea of relevance," when she walked out on Rick James. It was not a diva moment. It was the sound of a woman protecting her craft, when she was ignored by Babyface. She didn't start a feud, she just let the silence speak, because silence when held with dignity is more deafening than a scream. And that's what makes Patti LaBelle unforgettable. She never needed to expose people, because the truth always found its way to the surface. People noticed. People asked, why no track with Prince? Why no Quincy Jones masterpiece? Why no duet with James Brown? The answer was always in the spaces in between, in the glances, in the pauses, in the collaborations that didn't happen and the reasons they didn't. She once said, "I'm not angry, I just know what I'm worth," And if someone doesn't, that's their loss, not mine. Those words carry the weight of 1,000 closed doors, but also the power of knowing your own voice. That's why she could stand alone on stage, microphone in hand. No features, no backup, just her and the crowd. And that was enough. Because Patti LaBelle didn't just survive the music industry, she mastered it on her own terms. She refused to play by rules written by men who didn't see her. She refused to shrink for legends. Even when their names were bigger, even when their spotlights tried to erase hers, she kept singing, she kept shining, and she left every room with her pride intact. So the next time someone wonders, why didn't Patti ever sing with him, or why did that song never happen, tell them, because she didn't need to. Because some voices are so powerful, they don't need permission to echo through history. Patti LaBelle, the woman who sang in silence and still was heard louder than them all.